Coming in, Jimmy on Clubhouse. We're getting ready to start another episode over on Clubhouse. And I'm going to be interviewing a gentleman by the name of Keith Norris. That's Keith right there. You might know his name. He created and co-founded the PaleoFX conference. And so we're going to be interviewing people every single day this week. So be sure to keep track here on Jimmy on Clubhouse. Hello, Norma. Hello, yes, it's Erica. Thank you guys for being here. So come in all week long. I'm going to have fresh interviews on Clubhouse that we will be recording here exclusively on Jimmy on Clubhouse Instagram. So thank you guys for being here. And I need to get this show on the road. Let's start the room. All right, you guys, come on in. Make yourselves at home. We're going to have a great show here today. I've got a wonderful interview with a longtime friend of mine from back in the paleo world. His name, Keith Norris. Let's see if I can ping Keith into the room if he's around. He should be around. Keith, where are you? There he is. Search. All right, so he's pinged. And as soon as we get him here, we can get this show on the road. What is up, Keith Norris?
Hey, Jimmy, how you doing?
What's up, man? I love this Clubhouse app, dude.
You know, I came out of the gate hot and heavy because a very, very good friend of ours was like, she has the foresight to be able to see things that are going to take hold, and she was all about it.
Oh, dude, yes.
All about it, and she just was relentless. She's like, no, you don't understand. I was like, Cole, the last thing I need is another freaking social media. She's like, no. And check this out. I don't even have an iPhone. I'm an Android guy.
Yeah.
And she's like, I am giving you a burner Android phone,
yes,
and you're getting in there.
Yes.
Like, okay.
Dude,
right.
My best friend is Brittany, and I said the same thing. I said, Brittany, I will buy you a Bobo iPhone just so you can get on Clubhouse.
Right. And she's right. I have loved it, and B, it seems like the new wave, and I think one of the reasons why it's so popular, just from my opinion, is you can't fake this. Right?
No.
If your voice is on, this isn't your social media team doing your IG.
That's right.
This is you.
You. Which is why I think this was built in for people like myself who've been podcasting since there was podcasts.
Right. Totally.
Yeah, I've enjoyed it. And I have this new keto clarity room here, and I did a fasting clarity room. You guys should do a PaleoFX room.
Well, and so here's the thing. I don't know if you know where we are right now, but we have this book coming out.
Yes.
So we are. Michelle is waving. She is saying
hi, Michelle.
And I will let you know in just a minute while she's not on, because she is. Can I speak French in here? She's working her ass off.
Yeah, work her ass off. Sure.
Okay. She's busting her ass because we are right now downsizing from 3,500 square feet of house/office into less than 400 square feet in an RV.
Wow.
And we're getting ready to hit the road and travel. So, and if anyone knows anything about me, I am the natural born minimalist. I don't have much of anything at all. So for me, this isn't much of a heavy lift.
You were a minimalist at 5.
I was a minimalist at 5. That's what Michelle said from the cheap seats over there. So yeah, anyway, this is a big undertaking for both of us. And to circle back around on the whole Clubhouse thing, because we've been otherwise occupied.
Yes, and you guys are about to travel around in an RV, right?
Right.
Yeah, so...
Totally, Jimmy, this lights me up like nothing else has. And So I wrote a story. So here's something I have been able to eke out in the last few weeks. I started a Substack account. I don't know if anyone knows what Substack is, but it is essentially a blogging platform. We'll just put it that way. But
yeah.
So there's many benefits to this platform over and above things like Medium and some of the other platforms out there.
Right.
Anyway, not to digress into that, but I just put out a story yesterday about how, I don't know why, I don't know, sun and stars aligning, whatever, but I was just one of those people, and I still am one of those people who feels alive when they are untethered.
Yes.
Completely. The more untethered I am, the more alive and happy I am. And I have done this, and I have coping mechanisms, right? So I've pretty much, since I've been out of the military, which, by the way, was probably one of the things I loved about the military. Didn't understand it at the time, but that was it, because I was completely untethered. You didn't know where you were going to wake up the next day, which thrilled me.
Wow.
And there's a lot of downsides to the military for sure, but that was the upside for me personally.
Sure.
And so I've had lots of coping mechanisms in the past to how I can, how am I gonna stay in one spot in a house, the mortgage, yada, 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 and still be happy. I've had coping mechanisms. 2020 pretty much wiped out all of those coping mechanisms.
Yes.
And I kind of went into a spiral. And long story short, Michelle and I came to the decision of, okay, let's do this RV thing. And take off. Which for her, I will have to give her ultimate kudos.
Yeah.
Because again, for me, not a big stretch at all. For her, this is a big step.
Well, you guys are very much into the Austin, Texas scene. And so when I heard you were going to do an RV, I was like, is Michelle okay with this?
And so that's the thing. I mean, we will have a hub in Austin because although, and I guess we can talk a little bit of politics here, although I despise the politics of Austin, I love the community in Austin,
yes.
And I don't want to be away from it forever.
Yeah. Austin's a cool town.
This will be, the hub to come back to and visit quite frequently. But Jimmy, I got to tell you, just the fact that RV is sitting outside of my front door right now makes me feel that much more liberated. And we're not even in it yet, but just to know that it's out there, it's manifested, it's concrete, I can put my hands in it, I can go inside of it. I know in the next couple of days we will be living in it, and that makes it all so much better.
That's so cool. So guys, we are here talking to Keith Norris today. You're in the Keto Clarity Club, the brand new Keto Clarity Club. Welcome, welcome. If you have not subscribed to this club, definitely hit the green house at the top of the page and you can subscribe. I have a sister club called Fasting Clarity. Currently, Keith, you'll be proud of me, man. I just entered day number 9 of water and salt only.
Oh, hey, nice.
Speaking of,
you feel great, don't you?
Yeah, I do. Speaking of breaking free.
Once you get past that mental construct, and it is largely a mental construct that you have to eat every day, and even back up from there, that you have to eat 3 meals a day.
Yes.
That you have to, all of these stories that we tell ourselves, and they're wired into the subconscious mind. Once you cut that tie, it is liberating. And it lets you know how much you eat out of, number 1, convention, number 2, pleasure.
Yep. There's so many kind of societal norms that are put on us. People think eating or not eating is crazy, but they're okay with drinking Coca-Cola and eating what I call crappy garbage. That's okay to them. So what? Like, when did we have this bass-ackwards way of looking at things?
I think, Jimmy, this is, one of the most powerful tools I have forever had in my tool belt, and I came out of the womb asking why? Why this? Why that? Why do this? Why are we in? I have to hand it to my parents that put up with that when I was a young kid, because I know I must have driven them crazy.
Yes.
But I still ask why? Why are we doing this? Why am I doing this? Does this serve me or does it not serve me? If it doesn't serve me, why am I doing it?
So
No, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. When you took a pause, my podcasting instincts kick in to not let dead air be there.
I hear you.
So you've written a brand new book. Tell everybody the name of it.
So the book is called PRIMAL Rising. Yes. The PaleoFX Guide to Optimizing Your Health, Expanding Your Mind, and Reclaiming Your Freedom.
So this is something that is just so fascinating to me, because there are people throughout life in various aspects that not only play the victim card, they thrive in it. They seem to relish in it. It becomes so much a part of their identity, and they have no idea they could be empowered to do so much more than what they're doing, wallowing in their victimhood. Why do they do that?
Right, totally. It's a trap that they fall into, and there's many reasons why people will do that. Some of it is what we call secondary gain. Secondary gain is when someone has an identity wrapped up in an external experience or a certain identity. So, for instance, we might think of someone in AA, right? And for the first couple of steps, I really believe in the AA program, where AA and I diverge is the once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic.
Yeah.
Or once an addict, always an addict. That is a tag. That is identification with a label, right? So if I'm not an alcoholic anymore, I don't get special treatment. I don't get a certain notoriety, even though it may be negative notoriety, it is still notoriety. So that's one aspect, is secondary gain. And people will tell you that there is no way I do that, and not everybody does, but some do. And if you get people to step back and really examine what do they get out of being an addict or being a whatever, you do whatever it might be, they begin to unravel that, and then they can begin to be empowered to stand alone away from that identity. And that is that is true liberation. To be a victim in any kind of capacity is to be, if someone's a victim, there is somebody holding the strings of that victimhood. And that is your prison.
But you have to give them the permission to put you in that prison. This is what blows my mind about people who play the victim card.
Yes.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, you hold the keys to your own imprisonment. Each and every one of us, right? And to the extent we're imprisoned is largely the extent of us giving over those keys to somebody else and not taking them and using them ourselves to set ourselves free.
This is a huge mind shift that I don't think enough people even know where to start to begin to make happen. How do you, when you talk to people about this and in your book, how do you describe kind of getting people out of that mentality of victimization so that they can see that there's so much more beyond that?
Yeah, well, this is where it comes down to the individual, right? Because if you truly want to help somebody, you have to meet them where they're at. And I know that's a cliche. That's a total cliche. It's a cliche in coaching. It's a cliche in working with people emotionally, yada, yada, yada. And there's a reason why it's a cliche, because it's true.
Yeah.
Now, I can come with both barrels and just blow somebody over with this information and lose them forever, right? It's just information overload. They can't take that step. They're just not ready for it. And they will just completely shut you off, and you will get nowhere. It's like telling someone who is 200 pounds overweight, hey, we got to drop 200 pounds. That's not going to work, right? It's overwhelm. It's
no kidding.
Overwhelm. Now, if you tell them we're going to drop 1 pound, 200 times, 1 pound is a lot more doable, right? And so in the same way, this is coaching 101. In the same way, you meet people where they're at, and you slowly bring them on into the program. Find out where they are giving up their sovereignty. There's somewhere in life that they are giving up their sovereignty. Where is the entry point? It may be food. It may be a substance. It may be a relationship. It may be their finances. It may be, it could be whatever. But you find that entry point. That's where you dig in. And then you can relate that to any other aspect in their lives.
Well, and framing of the message counts as well. Like if you can't communicate it in a way, like you said, meeting people where they are, but even once you're there, you still have to frame the message so that they're convinced. And so, like, trying to figure out, do you appeal to emotion? Do you appeal to intelligence? Do you appeal to something else? Like, how do you know where to go next?
Right. So Dr. Mario Martinez talks a lot about this, right? And also, the gentleman's last name is Navarro. I cannot think of his first name right now, but he's done studies on how messaging affects people, right? So I'll bring up this example. This is the big mistake that coaches writ large, whether they're nutrition coaches, whether they are, any kind of coach who is looking to transform somebody in a personal empowerment kind of way. These people are in a bucket that Fred is his name, Frederick Navarro. He is, I don't know if he's still with the University of California system or not. Anyway, super guy, very, very intelligent. That type of person who will make a change based on information and evidence alone, which is largely nutrition coaches out there right now, right? The information was put in front of them. They said, wow, yeah, I see. I see how carbohydrates can muck up my metabolism. Ergo, I'm going to cut way down, if not every bit of carbohydrate. I'm going to drastically reduce my carbohydrate intake. Bam, and they are done. Said and done, boom, big transformation in their lives. They drop weight, they feel great, yada, 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 they go on. That group of people who will make a change based on evidence like that is the smallest subset of individuals there are across all subsets.
Yes.
The smallest. And those people will then go out and attempt to coach other people in that same methodology. Let me browbeat you with the evidence. And it is an abysmal failure.
Yes.
For 90% of the population who is not otherwise wired. You have to find another lever.
Oh, that manifests in the diet world as well, as you well know, when you have all these like fitness models that say, oh, come eat blankety blank diet and you'll look like me. No, we won't. We don't have that gene structure. You don't have my history of insulin resistance or other metabolic issues.
Totally.
It's such bullshit.
This is, look, there was a lot of reasons why I was a very successful strength and conditioning coach. But I can tell you, my knowledge of strength and conditioning was not the reason. It absolutely was not. There were tons of people out there, and there are tons of people out there who are way more intelligent than I am when it comes to programming strength and conditioning. My trump card was I knew how to message to people individually. Ever what that was, whether I just learned it intuitively or whatever it was, I knew that I had to position a message according to the person receiving it. And that was rarely evidence-based.
Yes.
Rarely.
So,
and I showed results. One result after another result after another result after another result. I made a very good living doing that.
Right.
Which is why I hate to see nutritional coaches struggling. It gets at my heart because these people need to succeed financially so that they can continue doing what they're doing, and they are doing great work. The problem is they don't know how to coach. They know the information, they just don't know how to coach.
So Keith, we're talking a lot about like you identifying in someone else that they're playing this victimhood card. How does an individual recognize it? I mean, if you're a victim and maybe you don't even know it, or subliminally you're using it to your advantage, like we were talking about at the beginning, how do you as an individual recognize whether you're playing the victimhood card or not?
Yeah, it's very difficult, Jimmy, as you might imagine, because few of us are experts in anything, but all of us are experts at deceiving ourselves.
Yes.
We are the grandmaster experts at deceiving ourselves. So there's one thing. If you can step back and acknowledge that most of your day-to-day actions, most of everything that you do, and I hate to throw out a number because it varies, but if we could just, relatively speaking, 95% of your actions are done at the subconscious level, meaning you really don't have any control over it. It just is. You do without thinking about it. You just do. It's like tying your shoe. Have you ever sat back and tried to tie your shoe thinking about it? It's actually quite difficult. You throw on your shoe and you tie it and you run along. You don't even remember tying it, and it got done. Just like driving, sometimes you'll look around and go, "Yeah, how did I get here?"
Yeah.
So that is the first step, is to backing off and realizing that I am largely under the control of my subconscious, even though I would tell myself otherwise. That's not the case. I can tell you it is the case. It is the case. About 5% of your actions, you're actually present, which is huge. Ask somebody if they've ever been present, even this morning, where they felt each and every breath going out of their lungs, where they felt the air on their skin, they felt the temperature, they saw everything in all of that. That's presence. You are rarely in flow, and that is flow, by the way, as well. Flow and presence is a small sliver of your daily pie of time.
Wow.
Small sliver. So you are operating out of your subconscious 95+%, and I'm being generous saying 95%.
Some closer to 100.
Like 99.99.
Yes. Some closer to 100. The last year has taught us most closer to 100.
Right. So, how do you operate out of your subconscious? You operate by the stories either you have been told and were accepted by you, mostly in the youth, from 0 to 7, because we are programmed to be sponges at that time. That's our nature as human beings. We had to be able to be programmable and be a contributing member to the tribe very early on and not be a burden to the tribe. So we had to fast track. We had to pick up the norms of that culture, and the only way to be able to do that is to be just essentially in trance, and you are just absorbing everything. Well, that's fabulous. And it's a double-sided sword because it's also crippling. So you don't have the wherewithal to be able to discern, this is a good story I want to keep, that is a bad story I don't want, nope, erase that one. You don't have that wherewithal. You just take in everything, absorb it. If you're lucky, later in life, you can then go back and do the work and go, you know what, that's a story that I find is bullshit.
Yeah.
It's complete bullshit. It's hampering me, and I'm ready to change it. And there's a laundry list of ways to go about changing that story, but step number one is for you to identify that, yes, I am programmable, and we are all still programmable right now. Don't think that we're not. We are, ergo propaganda. That's why propaganda is so effective. Now, but you do have the choice of what you want to take in and what you refuse to take in.
Yes.
You have the choice to go back and change every story that you live by. Every story. And it can be done. I'm an example of that. It absolutely can be done. And I was one of those people that was like, what are you talking about? I operate out of my subconscious. I'm Mr. Flow. I am conscious every single moment. And, I was shown otherwise. So, yeah, that's probably a very long-winded
That's okay.
answer, and probably did not answer the original
No.
question.
It was good. I was watching on IGTV the other day. They were showing some psychological exam where they brought someone into a room. She was all by herself, sitting in this waiting room. Well, then they had other people come in the room, and they were actors, of course, and that person didn't know it. And every time there was this beeping sound, the people would stand up.
Yes.
And then sit back down, and then more people would come in, and the beeping sound, everybody would stand up. And then eventually the person that was in there originally that was not standing up started standing up simply to conform with the group. And it's that you think, no, you wouldn't do that. But invariably, almost all of us would do that.
Yeah, if you are not aware of how this game is played, you are likely to fall victim to it. And that is huge. Now, take the beeping and standing, trade that for masks. Okay?
Yeah,
if we want
that's
to go
true.
if we want to go down that rabbit hole. Now, if you think masks are effective and yada, 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 more power to you. Mask up, double mask, triple, whatever. It's a free country. But don't tell me to conform and mask up.
Yeah.
Now we have an issue. We've got a big issue.
Yeah. A lot of people...
I know the way the game is played. I know how propaganda is played. I know mind control. I know all of that. I was in the military. I went through evasion tactics. All of this, I can see it. It's right out of the playbook. This is how you condition a prisoner of war.
Sure. So, Keith, help us with the empowerment aspect of this, because it seems to me that would be an incentive. Like, tell people they can be empowered, have the freedom to do the things that they want to do, reach the dreams and the hopes of their heart, as you put it in your book, escape the human zoo, so to speak. How do you kind of give them a taste of what the promised land feels like so they don't want to be a victim anymore?
Right. Well, this is tricky because to be fully empowered takes responsibility. 100% responsibility. I tell everybody I come across, I am a fully individualized, a fully sovereign, fully empowered individual, and I take full-on 100% responsibility for everything in my life. Even this whole COVID thing, 100%. I either navigate it or I don't. No one does anything to me. Nobody. I choose to react given a circumstance. Nobody levers me, nobody wills me, nobody does everything without my 100% choice, no matter what. I take full responsibility for every fat lip, every skinned knee, everything.
Yes.
And on the flip side, I take 100% responsibility for every success.
Yes.
Now, can someone say, I take 100% responsibility for every failure, every fat lip, every skinned knee, every... Surprisingly, Jimmy, when you ask people and you get down to nut cutting, very few are willing to make that trade.
Why?
Because victimhood is safety. Somebody else is looking after me, ergo, if something goes wrong, it's not my fault, it's theirs.
Scapegoat.
That, Jimmy, is the entire source and the entire trap of victimhood. That's it right there in a nutshell. I get to put my problems, my failures, all of the bad, nasty things that happen to my life off on the government, off on whatever entity, off on somebody else. It's not my responsibility. It happened to me.
Yes. Broken relationship,
yes.
Bad parents, blah, blah, blah.
Yes. That is a trap. That is the victimhood trap. You're trading safety for responsibility.
Wow.
And that's a hard question that's very, very difficult. When I first started diving into this,
yes,
because I would deny up and down that I was a victim. Oh no, I was a financial victim everywhere, right? Maybe I had everything else in my life was just dialed in. I had full on responsibility, but it was Wall Street. It was the man. It was the elitist. It was that. That's why I was struggling financially. When I finally came to grips with that, no, bro, you're struggling financially because you choose to struggle financially.
Yes.
That is on you, not the man, not the system, not Wall Street, not any of that, on you. And I had to sit down with myself and came to terms with that, finally accepted it. Yes, all the stories, all the bullshit that I accepted when I was young about being blue collar, working class, yada, yada, all that bullshit.
Yeah.
I disavowed it immediately.
Yes.
Dug into it, took full on responsibility, disavowed that, took the good of the working class, blue collar, work ethic. Nobody will outwork me. Nobody. And that doesn't mean that I have to live on blue collar wages.
Yes.
So it's a big difference.
So Keith, I'm going to reset the room. You're in the Keto Clarity Club. Thank you for being here today, you guys. Click on that greenhouse at the very top. You can definitely join the club, and we will welcome you up on the stage. I see Vaughn just joined us. We'll get to him in just a moment. But hit the hand at the bottom if you want to come up and join us. Definitely go follow Keith Norris. I've known Keith for a really long time. 2011, I think, is when I met you at the AHS conference, and then you started the PaleoFX conference with your lovely wife, Michelle, there in Austin, Texas, and COVID kind of messed up PFX the last year and probably this year. I know you guys have done some virtual events, but virtual don't cut it. Jimmy Moore got to hug people. So
I hear you, Jimmy. I hear you. And if you bill yourself as the Burning Man of health and wellness for 10 years,
yes,
you want a live event, and I do too, and Michelle does too.
Yeah, so guys, go follow Keith. He's got a brand new book, Primal Rising, right?
Primal Uprising.
Uprising. I knew I missaid it. So thank you. So go check that out, you guys. And it's all about this topic we're talking about here, breaking free from victimhood to empowerment. Again, raise your hand if you want to talk to me and Keith, and we'll get you up on stage in a minute. Before I get to Vaughn, I want to talk about kind of this whole idea that people don't value themselves enough, and that's why they stay the victim. And so when you devalue yourself, and maybe you play a little bit of imposter syndrome of, oh, I don't belong here, and you stay in these limiting beliefs that keep you there, that keeps them in the victim. And then they wonder again, why can't I ever be empowered?
Right, totally. And I think that's another big trap too, is not to value yourself highly, right? In our society, and we can go way down a rabbit hole. I believe there is a reason why we're conditioned as such, but we feel selfish, right? If we put ourselves first, if we, shower ourselves with praise, and shower ourselves with accomplishment and striving and all of that. And the truth of the matter is, at least from my perspective, and I will say this too, that I am the world's leading expert on one thing and one thing only, and that is my perspective.
Yes.
So take all of this with a grain of salt, right? I speak as if I know what the hell I'm talking about, and I do, because it is my perspective. So I'll just say that as a caveat. But I do believe that is a self-limiting mindset, because in the same way that you cannot love another until you love yourself fully, you cannot help another, you cannot help society if you are playing low. If you are playing low ball, you are not helping society. Even though you may say up, down, and sideways you are, and that's what you live for, you are not. You are cutting yourself off at the knees if you don't put yourself first. Be loud, be proud, and own your genius.
Woo, woo, woo. Dude, you are talking my language. I love this, because people don't want to put in that effort. And I know some people in the audience that I know personally are doing that work. And definitely, guys, raise your hand if you want to come up here and talk to us. But yeah, that'll preach, dude. So that's good stuff. Vaughn, let's go over to you now. What you got for us, bro?
Hey, Jimmy. Hey, Keith. And feels a little bit by accident, because I hit the plus button because I wanted to ping so many people in this room, because you're speaking my language, right?
Right on.
This is it, and I say this a lot of times. Like, it's the perception that you create around things, and it's something that I continually work on, right? Like, I believe that it's something, becoming, empowering yourself through that victimhood, right? Like, I think the foundations that we've grown up in, like you said, our childhoods from 0 to 7, and truthfully from 7 to 18, and even beyond, right? Mm-hmm. Because so much starts as the foundation, like for myself, growing up with an alcoholic father, mentally, physically abusive, you're never going to be good enough. You're not this, not that. So those things are the things that I choose to kind of use as my springboard. And is it always easy? No, right? Like, I choose to use that to become better, like to overcome, to become. But, it's not always easy, right? Like, there's certain things that I'm working on now, and I continue to work on. Even like Jimmy said, the imposter syndrome and things like that. I think our self-doubts can creep in no matter who we are, right?
Right.
At certain levels in life. So I appreciate. I'm following you. I turned the bell on here to follow you on Clubhouse. I'm following you on Instagram because the way you speak and what you talk is not only what I believe in and preach, but what I also need to hear. Right. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Vaughn.
Right on. Thank you, Vaughn.
Any comments, Keith?
Yeah, I would say that. Yes, to Vaughn's point, our psyche is not fully evolved until we are 25, 26 for males, and a little bit earlier for females. And there's different, if you study psychology, there are different aspects of malleability as we progress in age, and where we turn our attention to at various stages of our lives. It's just the most malleable and the absolute most malleable you are is from 0 to 7. So
isn't that funny that at 18 we expect kids to figure out what the major is for the rest of their life that would determine their career?
Jimmy, I always say that I still don't know that if I'm fully developed. I don't know, but at 18, oh my God,
No.
I was not at all. I was physically mature, and I was mature in a lot of ways, but as far as being able to make life-changing decisions, no way.
Well, a lot of people get married at that age as well. Go ahead.
And my viewpoint of life, my ability to control myself, all of that was not hardwired in.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. And I was still very malleable at that time.
Yes.
Look, I bought in hook, line, and sinker, the whole American dream idea. I bought into that. I, went through the military, which is a type of brainwashing, yes. I went through all that. And in fact, when I was in the service and went through one of the schools, which was essentially evasion tactics, which they took examples from the Korean and Vietnam War of what happened to POWs and how those POWs were manipulated psychologically. And they created a training program out of that, how to counter those effects. And it wasn't until I went through that school that I was like, hey, wait a minute.
Yeah.
I just went through this whole, my career here. I'm being manipulated on the other side over here. So I see how this game is played. But It's just, it's just kind of funny. We are all susceptible to it, yes. And we can become less so susceptible to it if you know how the game is played.
Yeah.
And that is key. Know how the game is played, and know that you are being manipulated. Every day you are being manipulated. Sometimes in good ways.
Yes.
Mostly in ways that would benefit somebody, not you. So wouldn't you at least like to know how the game is played so you can counter those measures, if need be, if you want to be?
Yes, and the food companies are very good at that manipulation in their marketing.
Yes,
and our next guest, next one up is Suzanne Ryan, very famous author in the keto world, Simply Keto, Beyond Simply Keto. She's been doing a lot of this breaking free from victimhood work on herself. What's up, Suzanne?
Hey guys, love this conversation. Actually, Jimmy and I were just talking about this very thing of when you get older and you kind of realize all these stories that you took on at times where your brain really wasn't at a developmental stage to really assess, like, does this belong to me? Does this not? Is this like total BS? So I would just love to hear from you, Keith. Like, I know for me, I had to go through a lot of struggles to actually like uncover this, and then go through counseling to be like, oh, this is a thing. Like, what are some like actionable steps that you think people can kind of do to like get this process going to realize these stories? Because it's tough when sometimes you have to go through so much before you're like, oh. So what are some things that you recommend?
Oh, totally. So here's one thing that anybody can do. I would study as much as possible the works of Robert Cialdini. Right? Robert Cialdini was one of the much of an offshoot of his work is accepted in NLP work. Right, neuro-linguistic programming. NLP gets a bad rap a lot of times because it's seen as swarmy, it's seen as manipulative, it's seen as it's got a marketing edge, it's got all of that. And yes, it can be used for that because it is persuasion, right? Like any tool, it can be used for good, it can be used for bad. I equate NLP to money because money is the same way. Right? And I went through a long period of time where I thought money was evil. My upbringing, if it had to do with money, it was like rich people are rich for one reason, and one reason only. It's because they fuck somebody over to get it. And we do not do that in this household. We do not do that in this community. We are fine, upstanding, blue-collar people. We do not do that. The message I got was remain poor and you're a good person. Right? So that is something that I had to untie. I was like, money doesn't have anything at all with me being a good person. Me being a good person is a standalone. What I do with money, I can do great evil. I can control people. I can do all kinds of dastardly things with it. And I can do so much good with it.
Yeah.
I can create new worlds. I can change lives. I can do all of these things. In fact, now I am like, show me the money. because I've got a world to change, and I need to grease the skids.
That's
More money.
That's
Bring it in.
So my view of things of more money I can make is the more good I can do.
Hell yes. Bring it on. Give it to me. I will change the world with it.
Yes.
So in the same way, my knowledge of NLP, could I use it for marketing and manipulation and yada, yada, all that? Absolutely, I could. Look, I know how this propaganda game is played. I've lived it. I've been to military school with it. NLP is just an offshoot of that. Could I use it for that? Hell yeah, I could use it for that. And I choose not to use it for that. I choose to change lives with it.
Yes, our mutual friend Dan French, who is a rhetorician, PhD, he would call that ethical versus unethical use of that kind of mentality.
Totally.
Yeah.
And part of the ethical use, in my opinion, and in my perspective, again, the only thing I am an expert in is to tell people up front, I'm going to be working with you. We've identified the certain area of your life to change. I am going to use these techniques on you. Are you cool with that? I tell people up front, are you cool with that?
Love it.
Know that this is how I'm going to work. This is one of the tools in my tool bag. So Suzanne, that's where I would start, and that's on one level. On another level, and this may be very controversial here, but Michelle and I also do psychedelic work, right? So why does NLP, why is that so effective? Because one of the first steps when you're working with somebody in NLP is you put them in a state of trance. And I'm not talking about the public perception of trance with the watch swinging back and forth and that kind of stuff. That's not what I'm talking about. It is putting somebody in a state of relaxation to where they are then neurologically pliable. Once they're in that state, you can begin to work with them to change, we're talking about subconscious stories, to change the story if they so choose. Go back, find the offensive action, change that story if they so choose, either extract it by the roots or rewrite it. What story do you want to tell yourself when you're operating 95% of the time in your subconscious? What story do you want to tell yourself?
Yep.
So, and so here's the thing with psychedelics. And if anyone wants to jump into psychedelics and kind of get your, just kind of dip your toes in the water, Michael Pollan wrote a great book that's kind of the entry level psychedelics meets Midwest U.S. It's called How to Change Your Mind.
Cool.
So the whole thing with psychedelics, it puts you in that trance state so that you can then go in and make changes in your subconscious. That's all it is. It's a fast track. I hope that answered your question.
Thank you, Suzanne. So, Lindsay, you're up next. What you got for us?
Hi, good morning, everyone.
Hey.
Hi.
Glad to be here with you all.
Thanks for being here.
Well, I have a question or comment/question. So, as we're going from victimhood to empowerment, and as we go to take our experiences and are on our journey, I think for me, in my experience, we've never quite arrived. We're just at a different plane of empowerment or a different plane of enlightenment.
Yep.
At what point would someone be able to reach back and help someone else? Because if we're waiting till we've quote unquote arrived, what are your thoughts on that?
Lindsay, I would say right now, you are one step ahead of somebody else, right? And somebody is one step ahead of you. Nobody on this earth is there, right? Myself included, I am not there. And I am one step ahead of a lot of people. And I have mentors who are one step ahead of me. So when I asked myself the same question a while back, because I had big time imposter syndrome around this, who am I to help anybody? Look at my life. Who am I? I mean, look at this mess. Who am I to help anybody? And the answer I got was, who are you not to help somebody? There are people one step behind you who would love to have every freaking problem you have.
Yeah.
Show them how to get there. It doesn't mean you ever stop. And nobody stops. And like I say, nobody is quote unquote there yet, but we are all one step ahead of somebody who desperately needs our help.
Love that. Yeah, absolutely. I think so often we get inside our heads and we feel like we can't help somebody because we're still in our own mess. But just what you said, that when we reach out, we find that through that mess or through the challenges, as we embrace them and work through them, that we're able to take these experiences and really impact positively the lives of those around us.
So here's something that's very interesting that I have found out since I've been doing a lot of personal work with people here lately. And the people that I was mentoring with told me this would happen, and I was like, yeah, that sounds kind of, I'm a woo guy, but that sounds way too woo for me to accept them. But they said, when you start working with people, it's going to be uncanny, but the people you attract are going to come to you with problems that you yourself are working on.
Wow.
And I thought, yeah, that sounds a little too, the secret-y for me. I don't know if I believe. I will tell you this. Most people who come to me to work with me, it is in some area of their life that I am struggling in.
Yes.
It is uncanny and it's true. So as I'm helping them, they are helping me. And I tell every person I work with, this is not a one-way street. You might think it is, but it is not. I am learning from you.
Keith,
Right?
can I tell you the same thing happened to me when I started doing a lot of this internal work on myself, and I came back from my sabbatical last year. Everybody was like, you've changed. And then a lot of people dropped out of my life, like 3/4 of my so-called friends. I've had brand new people come in my life that I didn't know before then. They're the exact same way. Like they're meeting some part of something that I'm challenged with in my own life and adding such value to me. And so I guess if you're looking for it, it's there.
It is. And it is uncanny and it is true in my experience. There's not a person that I have worked with that I have said, oh, I got this. Let me show you how this is done. It has been a constant struggle of imposter syndrome. It's been a constant struggle of who am I to help this person when I am in fact going through the same issue right now. And I get back to the point that I am one step ahead. I'm not there. I'm one step ahead. And for whatever reason, the cosmos, God, ever how you want to see that, has put us together because we are helping each other. This is never a one-way street. It always goes back and forth. So I would just keep that in mind as well, Lindsay. You are, and I don't know what your circumstances are. I don't know, what exactly you do, but there are people out there who are looking up to you and people out there who are looking to you for help in whatever arena of life that is in, and you are in a position to give that to them. So own it, take it on, and help that person or persons out.
Own it, girl. Own it.
Own it.
Appreciate your advice. I think this is a very common theme for a lot of people. So I think thank you so much.
Oh, it is a common theme. Totally.
Thank you, Lindsay. Vivica, you're up next.
Good morning, guys.
Hey, Vivica.
Hi.
So excited to be here talking with you. Thank you, Jimmy, so much. I'm excited to talk to Keith and ask him questions. I have been doing a lot of work on myself, a lot of work with nutrition. I'm a nutrition coach, a nutritionist, and also I've been on a spiritual path working with psychedelics, one psychedelic specifically, the one from the jungle. Not going to say it out loud, but
Sure.
And training and apprenticing with teachers in the jungle for the last 5 years.
Oh, interesting.
To be a facilitator, and now I work in that aspect as well, and kind of merging my nutrition practice into this much deeper work that really is starting to address, the deeper issues that we're all facing. I feel like we're doing this kind of work. I'm sure, Keith, you can relate that this is very needed right now to support us in this transition with all the tools we can bring, because it's a difficult one. Also, Keith, thank you so much I can't wait to read your book. I've been struggling personally a little bit with keeping the hope and the light, anchoring the light, because like the more you know and the scarier it gets. And like, you know, you talked about propaganda and you talk about victim state and awareness, and like just looking at what's happened only in the last year and the level of manipulation and the level of like conditioning, the asleepness is scary. The way where the trajectory is scary. So thank you for the hope, and I wanted to ask like for you two things, if that's okay.
Sure.
One, what do you think, like, it, you know, some words of like, how do we go forward from this for us that are trying to keep, you know, like bring the light and the consciousness and awareness and self-responsibility. And the other one is tied into that about what you were saying about being a coach and talking to people. If you have just one little tip about how to really reach people at their level, because sometimes I do struggle with that, and I do want to be able to help more people by being able to get through to them.
Mm-hmm. So on the first point, I would say, Vivica, you are doing work with jungle plants. I know which plant you're talking about. One of the biggest lessons I've learned from 70-ish ceremonies was, and I would back up and say that a number of ceremonies is not indicative of wisdom or knowledge. It just is.
Absolutely.
It just is. But one of the biggest lessons I learned from doing that was the ability to hold center in the middle of chaos. That's hold center in the middle of the chaos that's going on in my own life and in my own head, and to hold center in the middle of the chaos that's going around the circle, the ceremony circle. Holding center, being stable, being the point of stability when everything else is spinning out of control. That's a scary place to be. It's a scary place to be in that arena, and it's a scary place to be in quote unquote real life. But if we can do anything for people, it is to hold center during this point of chaos. Hold it. Somebody has to hold center. And in my opinion, in the last 15 years or so, there has just been this massive explosion in the use of A, psychedelics, and B, plant medicines. My belief is there is a reason for that. Is because humanity is being called right now to hold center in the middle of all this chaos. So I would say that, number one, to answer that question. I don't know if it did or shed light on it. The other thing, when I work with somebody, and this is whether I worked with them in the strength and conditioning area or now in doing this other, more personal work in the psychedelic space and in the personal improvement space, I let them know first and foremost, no matter what happens from this step forward, I love you. I've got your back. I love you. No matter what, no matter where we go from here. And let me tell you, Vivica, I can be a hard coach. And I tell everybody that works with me, I am not here to pull punches. Don't work with me if you don't want to know the truth as I see it, because I'm going to tell you. That's my job. My job is to be very, very tough here and maybe tell you some truths as I see it that nobody else in your life has ever told you. And I love you. You may hate me for a while. I love you. So that is how I would approach each and every person I work with.
I love that. Thank you so much. And thank you for reminding me of holding center. I think I am great at that in ceremony. I have no problem. Whatever happens, I'm like strong. But in real life, when it's me personally, it's another story. That's my integration that I have to do.
Sure. And integration is a big piece of this, right? And in fact, integration is the biggest piece of it. Yeah. The ongoing integration. And I would say this as well, Vivica, and you know this from being through ceremonies, there is a very thin veil between what we call reality and what we call other. So the you in ceremony is the you in the here and now. And if you can hold tight to that and believe that, it is, again, my perspective, totally my perspective, but you are you in each of those spheres. The true you is expressed in each of those spheres. If you choose it that way. If you choose it that way.
Yeah. So
You
Vivica,
guys are awesome.
thank you, sweetie. Appreciate you coming up on stage today. Johanna, you're up next. Latina Living Keto, you up? There you are.
Away from my phone.
There you are.
Hey, everyone.
Hi.
So this is all resonating so much with me, especially like what you were talking about, that you attract people that you're working with that have like similar issues with you, or like whatever you're probably struggling with. Because I just started putting out my keto coaching, and I put out there that I want to work with moms, and I have like this whole avatar and this whole person of who it is that I'm targeting. And it's so crazy because the last 2 clients that I've done have been moms that have 3 or 4 kids. So I'm like, whoa, okay, this is, when you said that, I just wanted to come up and share that because it's so true. It's like, when you put that out there, it's like, you don't realize who you're going to attract once you put it out there, and then you actually intentionally put it out there. Because I wrote this whole narrative of who my person was, and that's exactly who I'm getting right now. Like, the last 2 people have been moms with multiple kids, and and that's who I want to work with because that's what I'm catering to. So it's just so interesting when you put it out there. And I also realized too that I have some deep-seated issues with money and like receiving money and pricing, and my relationship with money is so like exactly what you were saying, like, oh, only those type of people have money, and how did they get that money? Then they have to have done something to get all that money. So I'm definitely working on my money mindset because it's just something that I have to overcome if I want to make it to that next level, which I know that I can do. And I know that I know I'm ready for it, but it's kind of like holding me back. So I just wanted to share that with you guys.
Yeah, I think many people who come, it's not all people who come from working class upbringings. I mean, this attitude can affect anybody at any time, whatever. But I was very much steeped in the idea that you are no better than anybody else. Don't put yourself up on a pedestal. That kind of thing. It was team. The old, in fact, when I was in high school, we had a shirt. It had team really big across the chest, and then it had this little teeny me underneath it. Right? And the idea being that we are not individuals. We come together. We form a team. Cool. Got it. In that respect, I totally buy into that idea, and I am a unique individual with a creative genius that is a genius that nobody else in this world has. Yes, I'm unique. Absolutely. And I am going to own that uniqueness. So it's just it's just looking at that idea from a little bit different angle, right? Just kind of shifting that prism just a bit. And then to take the next step is I am worth it. And that's the other thing is people get conditioned to you are not worth it. And I would change that and say you are absolutely worth it. You are changing somebody's life. Absolutely, you deserve to get paid, and paid well. Because if you get paid well, you go out and you change even more people's lives. And it just goes on and on and on. And now you've changed a life. You have unleashed a unique genius in that person's life. Then they go on and change the world in their unique way. That is priceless, in my opinion. Priceless. And you should be compensated for that.
All of this that you've been talking about, Keith, is predicated on people being selfless and giving. And that's a part of this as well. Breaking free from your victimhood, you have to be a giver. You have to be selfless. Like literally, I've been blessed very much because of the book sales and the things I've done. So I'm always paying it forward. I'm always giving to other people because I'm like, I want to see people feel the way I feel and get the success I had. And it's like, if you don't have that mentality, you're going to lose everything.
Yep, totally. Jimmy, I'll tell you one thing I had to accept as it comes to money. And this was tough for me to accept. This was very, very difficult. When I was doing work around this, my mentor told me the reason you have an issue with money is because you do not trust yourself with money.
Yes.
You don't. You don't trust that you will do. You could say, I'll do good with it. I'll do all this. Cut the bullshit. You don't trust yourself. Maybe you'll take that money and go buy a yacht and just sail off. Maybe you'll take that money and whatever. Maybe the last thing you will do is change their lives with it. Let that sink in.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, that was like,
mic drop.
Reach into my chest, pull out my heart, and let me watch it beating it. But it was 100% true. And once I owned that, this is called shadow work. Once I owned and integrated that shadow portion of myself in, I was free.
Yes.
I could buy the next yacht. I could do a lot of things, and I choose not to. It's not that I disavow that side of myself. Oh, it's in there. It is in there, and I choose not to express it.
Yeah.
So there's an acceptance of that side and an integration of that shadow versus trying to cut it out and put it out. By the way, this is where all toxic masculinity stems from. It's the non-acceptance of that part. Anything you do not accept about yourself will squeeze out sideways. It's going to express itself. That's Jungian psychology 101. It's coming out. Now, do you choose to control it, accept it, and control it? It's kind of like breaking a horse. Or do you let it run free, totally out of your control? It's going to come out. It's going to come out.
Whew. Yeah, and this is why, like, a lot of people get in weird relationships, and you've got one that is so domineering because they haven't done this work.
Totally. Yeah. Jimmy, if I could go back and if I could create the education system, this knowledge would be taught from kindergarten all the way through. This should be like the fourth R, right?
Yeah.
Reading, writing, arithmetic, and I don't know what an R would be with this, but knowledge of oneself and knowledge of one's own psyche and how to work with one's own psyche. That is not taught, and it should be, because it's not difficult once you learn all of the various parts, just like any other education. But you need to know the base parts of it to be able to work with it.
Yes.
And for the most part, we are clueless. Most people go their entire lives not having any clue about their psyche, and they are governed by their psyche 24/7, 365.
Yeah. Johanna, thank you for your comments and questions. Coach E, Kevin, what's up, buddy?
Hey, y'all.
Hey, man.
Hey, Kevin.
Hey, so man, great conversation, and I'm just gonna that quote you just said. I had to write it down. I'm unique, and I'm going to own that uniqueness, man. That really resonated, and I think about art when you say that. And I think about how unique art is, and why it's so expensive when someone makes that unique piece of art, and it's like millions of dollars because it's the only one.
Yes.
And some people might think it's ugly. Some people might be, I can't believe they paid that much money for it, but somebody loves it and it's unique. And I love that quote. I had to write that one down, so I thank you for that. Really wanted to ask you about awareness. I've been working on awareness because I'm a teacher by trade, and I work with students a lot. And when I think about investments and stock and things like that, I think about the teenagers actually seem to know the trends before we know it. And I've just been working on my awareness. I think about Uber. The first time I was introduced to Uber, a kid came up to me and was like, look, I got my personal driver coming to pick me up. And at this time, I believed him. I'm looking at the app like, you got a personal driver? I'm like, wow. And he's showing the car going through the streets. I'd never seen it before. I mean, I'd never seen it, never heard of it before. The same thing with TikTok. Like, and I was just thinking to myself, man, if I was just aware enough in those moments to say this is probably going to be a big deal, and I've been really working on that. So I just wanted to see what are some of the things that you do to work on your awareness, just being daily aware of trends and of things that are going on that you can invest in or just recognize an opportunity.
You're on one. Clubhouse is a prime example.
Totally, and which is why, and shout out to Cole Whitty here in Austin, and a great friend and a mentor of mine. She was on this from the get-go. She knew it was going to take. But I would say this, Kevin. So the mind, the conscious mind anyway, is a great editor. And in my experience, that little 5% of time that we utilize the conscious mind, it's not in the proper way. It is negate. When we're younger, we are open to any and all possibilities, right? We're pretty fearless in that respect. And so anything that crosses our paths is, in fact, a viable possibility, right? So to the young, what was it, 15 years ago maybe when Uber came out, sometime around there. So to the young, 15 years ago, when Uber came out, they were like, yeah, that seems sensible. That
Not
seems
even
plausible.
15. It was like 7 or 8 years ago.
7 or 8, okay. But to the young, they were like, yeah, that sounds plausible. Why not? Why couldn't somebody, have an app on their phone and see where I'm at and come pick me up? That's, yeah, totally plausible. Airbnb? Oh, yeah. Why wouldn't somebody rent out their house when they're not there? That just makes sense. Somebody older would look at that and think of every reason not to. Well, the insurance, well, this, well, that, what if they start a fire? What if someone has a wreck in the Uber, right? All the what ifs, right? Now, I'm not saying that's bad. I'm not saying that you should or anyone should just run into every opportunity blind and just, swan dive off the cliff. It's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is put that editor to bed. Go through the possibilities of what if first, then go back and do your risk assessment instead of the other way around. Most people do most what we would call, quote unquote, adults do risk assessment first, and usually that's wrong, but they'll do that first, negate every idea that comes through the line instead of doing it the reverse way. So there's one thing. One thing that I do as well, Kevin, and it's kind of become fun for me now. It was pretty painful when I started. But about once a week, I will take an idea that I would, let's call them hills that I would be willing to die on. And I deconstruct it and I say, is this still true? Do I still believe in whatever it is?
Love it.
And I will deep dive into it. And I will find sources that are so counter to what I believe, and I will devour them. And after all of that, I see if I still believe as strongly as I did in whatever it is as I did before. And I think that is a very, number one, I think it's unique. I don't think many people do that. And it is empowering to do that. Because there have been some things where I have been, I might need to change my mind on that. Or I might need to look at this a little bit different. But it keeps me from concrete mindset. I feel like it makes my mind pliable, and it forces me to listen to arguments that might not otherwise come across my bow, because I live in a bubble just like everybody else, right? I tend to gravitate towards people who think like me, who feel like me, who express themselves like I do. I live in this very unique bubble in Austin where it's all startup entrepreneurs and woo. So we have this cross section of super woo and startup people.
South by Southwest, yes.
And it's a bubble. It's very much a bubble. And I realize that when I get outside of that bubble and people look at me like I've got 3 heads. They're like, what?
Yes.
Just came out of your mouth? So that's how I feel like it keeps me nimble.
Gotcha. I'm glad you said that, because that's one of the things that I do is look at the opposite views. My wife always gets me like, why in the heck would you be looking at what somebody else is saying? I'm like, I love to get the opposite view. So I love that. That's definitely confirmation. So
totally.
The time and y'all sharing. Appreciate you too, Jimmy.
Thank you.
And one other thing, if you're a teacher, man, working with young people, oh my God. The people will slam on millennials all the time. I'm like, surround me with them, right? Do they have their downfalls? Yes, they're not mature, and they have some of the most advanced thoughts in thinking of anyone. I love millennials. Bring them on, and in whatever the next generation below them is.
Gen Z.
I think Gen Z.
Yep.
Bring them on. Yep. I want to be surrounded by them. Like I say, I know how I think. Right? I've got a handle on that. give me some outside thought and some perspectives on the world that are totally alien to me. I love it. I might not agree with them, right? I might think it's very immature, yada, 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 whatever. And I love to be exposed to it.
Kevin, thank you so much.
I only know what I know, right?
Kevin, thank you so much for joining. And Keith, tell us one more time, Primal Uprising, how can they go get the book?
So the easiest way, Jimmy, just go on Amazon. As much as I'm not a fan of Amazon, just go on Amazon and Google Primal Uprising. It'll get to you that way. I also just started a Substack. I think we talked about that a little bit earlier. Substack account. I've written exactly one piece since I started that a few days ago. So, and that's just wtrey.keithnorris.substack.com.
Okay. And then your Instagram probably has a link to it in like a link tree or something?
Yeah, I've got a Sociotap in my Instagram.
On Instagram, he's Theory, the number 2 practice. You guys go follow or you can just click his bio here, scroll to the bottom and follow him there. But Keith, dude, what a great show today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Jimmy, always a pleasure to talk to you, brother. Always. Any opportunity I have to have a chat with you, I will take it. Sign me up.
Thank you, kind sir. So guys, again, this is Keto Clarity Room. Thank you for hanging out. Click on the green house at the very top. Be sure to subscribe. I've got all kinds of interviews coming up this week. Tomorrow, I've got Dr. Jen Unwin, all the way from the UK, going to help you break your sugar addiction. Definitely click on my bio. You'll see all the upcoming people I have coming up this week. I am loaded for bear. I know how to interview, Keith, so that's what I'm doing here on Clubhouse.
Sir. You absolutely do.
All right, guys. We'll see you around the Clubhouse.
Bye, guys. Thanks, Jimmy.